Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So Liverpool have kicked off their Champions League group stage campaign with a 2-2 draw against Sevilla, and on the surface of it, it's not necessarily a bad result. I mean, if someone had offered you that going into the game and said, you know, you'll get 1 point out of this game, a draw with Sevilla, I think most Liverpool fans would have at least considered that, given, you know, the circumstances of the result against City and the fact that Sevilla represented a very high standard of opposition, and it was our first Champions League group stage game for quite a while, especially with the current squad that we've got. You might have considered that, but then if someone had offered you that result 70 minutes into the game, you would have told them to get lost, to be honest. You would have told them, go away, not interested, Liverpool should win this game, easy peasy. And that is the crux of the issue for me, and that is why, for most fans, I think this simply felt like a defeat. Because, I mean, that tends to happen when you're ahead in a game and you end up drawing it. It always feels like that. But the manner of the way that Liverpool drew this game, in a game that really they should have absolutely won at a canter. You know, they created so many chances, they were so good going forward. They didn't necessarily give Sevilla that much of a look in terms of the way they defended. Liverpool should have won that game at a canter, and they simply didn't. And the issue for me is that it's something that has been a problem in the past for Liverpool, and it's something that I would have liked to have seen buried. You know, with about 5 minutes before the Sevilla goal, I did start to feel like, you know, hang on, I think I've seen this movie before and I don't like where it's going, because I know what happens next. Far too often in the past, Liverpool struggled to kill off games because they couldn't finish off their chances going forward. As good as they were in the final third of the pitch, they simply couldn't finish what they'd started, and then individual errors or simple mistakes at the back would cost us, and we'd end up drawing games that we simply should have won at a canter. You know, this was most obvious in the Kenny Dalglish era. There were so many games at Anfield where we went 1-0 up against teams like Norwich or Blackburn, and we ended up drawing the game because we let them back into the game in circumstances when we simply shouldn't have done so. And like I said, this is something that I was happy to think was gone from Liverpool's sort of performances and their long list of failings that always seem to keep cropping up. You know, it's recently Liverpool have been much better at killing off games when they should have done. You know, last season we gave a lot of teams a pasting where in the past we would have created just as many chances, would have played just as well going forward, but would not have finished those chances and ended up drawing or even losing the game. It seems like Liverpool had got rid of that, but now that we're back in the Champions League, it seems like maybe that's going to start up again. And that's what worries me going forward. Because like I said, on the face of it, this isn't necessarily a bad result, but Liverpool need to do better than this in their other games in the Champions League, because Sevilla are not the only team who will do this to us. I mean, we've seen it against teams like Ludogorets Razgrad in the past in the Champions League. You know, teams that play in this competition are good with things like game management. They will come to Anfield knowing that they're not going to get many chances. They will have to sit back an awful lot, and they will have to be able to take their chances when they come to them. And that's exactly what Sevilla did. You know, they didn't create that many chances in the game, and that's what's frustrating as well, because we defended pretty well overall, but it's simply those individual mistakes that I will come to later that ended up costing us. And Sevilla simply took their chances a lot better than Liverpool did. So looking at the goals individually, I mean, the second one is a simple lack of focus and poor marking going on, and that is one thing that has cropped up a lot with Liverpool so far this season and in the past under Jurgen Klopp, and is something that the defenders themselves have said is a problem. I mean, Ranier Klavan said that one of the main issues that Jurgen Klopp wanted to work on during pre-season was our focus when playing at the back, because obviously when Liverpool are dominating teams, which is something they do a lot and something they did do last night, they're not going to concede that many chances. So the players, like the goalkeeper needs to be, all goalkeepers at top clubs we know have to be focused and alive to single situations to try and help their team win the game. The defence needs to be exactly the same when you're playing for a club like Liverpool, and it's let us down once again when it's not individual errors that cost us. It is this lack of attention span from our players. You know, Sevilla's Correa, he just gets through far too easily. He goes right through the middle, which is something that shouldn't be allowed to happen with the way that we defend. Someone should be tracking in, someone should block that run, someone should notice that that pass is about to be made. No one does, and at the end of the day, it is a very good finish. I mean, the only positive is that you can't really blame Loris Karius for both of the goals we conceded, because obviously going into the game, that was something that we were all slightly worried about his potential for making mistakes that we saw against Arsenal, his potential to make errors when put under pressure. He didn't show any of that last night, and I wouldn't necessarily blame him for both goals. I mean, on the second one, he makes himself as big as he pretty much possibly can, but the damage has already been done by our centre-backs. It's a good finish from Correa, and that is what basically ruined what was a very good performance for Liverpool. And I mean, the first goal, it's not difficult to say what went wrong there. I mean, you can spend ages doing tactical analysis on it, saying, oh, maybe Gomez should have tracked the run better, maybe he should have stuck a leg out to block the cross, maybe Moreira Moreno should have come a little bit more central to track Ben Yedder and make sure that he doesn't get on the end of that ball. But at the end of the day, Dejan Lovren should be able to kick a football that goes right at him, because you think Joe Gomez and Alberto Moreno, maybe they should have done those things, but at the end of the day, they will have seen the ball going straight towards Dejan and Lovren and thought, he is a professional footballer, he's playing for Liverpool Football Club, he's starting in a Champions League match, he is on £100,000 a week to play football professionally, he should probably be able to kick a football that comes directly at him. But how wrong they were to think that Dejan Lovren could do that. I mean, it's something that is so frustrating, individual errors, because it's not something that you can tactically analyse and say, you know, this is something that Liverpool can work on the training ground and they can get rid of from their game. It's something that just happens time and time again with us. Most often with Dejan Lovren, he's the chief culprit when it comes to this, especially in the Champions League. It just seems that his head goes in these big games like this, which is incredibly frustrating, because Liverpool need players who can deal with the pressure of the Champions League if they are to progress further in this competition. That is why we wanted an upgrade on what we've got at centre-back during the summer, and we simply didn't get it. And while in the past I've said that there's always the possibility that simply buying a better defender will not solve all the issues you have at centre-back, with Lovren, I think I'm now prepared to make an exception with that and say a player like Dejan Lovren, who simply is not good enough in these situations, you just need to replace him. You need to replace him with someone who is better at football than him, and that should solve that problem at least. But Dejan Lovren is simply not good enough to play Champions League football for Liverpool, and that is frustrating because we don't really have any alternatives. And I mean, there was a lad on the Redmen TV on the fan cams who basically summed this up better than anyone, including myself, possibly can, when he said Dejan Lovren is Mr. Bean. And I think that says it all, really. Liverpool have got Mr. Bean playing at centre-back, and when you think of it that way, it's no surprise that he is making mistakes like that. And once again, it has cost Liverpool points on the biggest stage possible, which is what is so frustrating about it. Despite all that, it wasn't necessarily doom and gloom, because Liverpool were very good going forward during this game. And I mean, while I looked at the expected goal stats afterwards, because that's always something that's very useful to judge how a game goes, and it was something like about 2.2 expected goals to Liverpool and about 0.9 expected goals to Sevilla. So when you look at that, you think maybe Liverpool scored as many goals as they should have done during that game. But I think the issue for me is not that maybe we didn't always take the chances that were given to us. We simply didn't create good enough chances when we were in very good positions to do so. We were incredible going forward. We were passing incredibly well. But as soon as we got into the box, the players just suddenly seemed to think, oh, hang on, we actually need to finish this chance. And they just forgot how to, it seems, which is something that's odd, because that's slightly out of character with the Liverpool side that we know at the moment. This current Liverpool team, with the incredible front three that they've got, has been brilliant at creating chances and brilliant at scoring them as well. So it's slightly odd that when they got into positions where normally we'd create clear-cut chances and brilliant opportunities to score goals, we simply weren't quite at it last night. But I mean, all things considered, the attack overall was very good. Like I said, we were getting into good positions. We got forward very well. We exposed Sevilla at the back. I think they did play a slightly too high a line, and they did let us in quite a few times on the counter-attack and everything, but we were getting into good positions as well. Firmino, I think, was probably man of the match for me. I mean, he is almost definitely my favourite Liverpool player now. Absolutely love Roberto Firmino. He is incredible in every single game he plays. He gives everything. You always expect a fantastic performance from Roberto Firmino, and I mean, the fact that he was crying at full time tells you all you need to know about how much Roberto Firmino loves Liverpool and how much he wants to win for this team. So Roberto Firmino is very good. Moreno was a standout performer for me as well last night. I thought he was fantastic. There was still a few issues with how he defended, but overall, especially going forward, he was brilliant. He was creating chances. He was adding that extra side to his game that has been missing in the past of Moreno. You know, he's been a bit like a headless chicken in the past. Of he runs forward, he gets into good positions, but his final ball never used to be there. He seems to have improved on that now. His passing's got better. He is helping to create chances, so that was fantastic to see from Alberto Moreno. So, I mean, things weren't necessarily that bad, especially going forward for Liverpool. Mane as well was very good. We are going to miss him an awful lot in the next few games, and he showed that last night with how important he was to us once again, even though he didn't get on the score sheet. Not huge problems going forward. I think maybe you could dismiss this as just one of those nights where things don't quite go our way. But with the Man City result hanging over it, it's hard to do that because we tried to dismiss that result as a bad day at the office, and we simply can't keep using that excuse because it doesn't work like that. So it worries me going forward, I think, because on the face of it, like I said, this isn't necessarily a bad result, and especially with Spartak Moscow and Maribor drawing as well, it doesn't really put us in an awful position going forward, and I'd still back Liverpool to qualify from this group. But the issue for me is that we simply need to improve on what we had last night, and we need to get rid of these problems, because if Liverpool do the same thing against Maribor and Spartak Moscow at Anfield, both of those teams, despite the fact neither of them are as good as Sevilla, they will still punish us, and they will still take those opportunities if afforded to them, and we could end up with more disappointing draws in the Champions League. So Liverpool do need to improve going forward. But I think we played fairly well last night, and hopefully, like I said, we can just dismiss this as maybe a day where we didn't quite get it right, and we will do so in future. So that is all for today's video. Thank you very, very much for watching. I'll be back very soon with all the build-up content for the game against Burnley at the weekend. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye for now.